Antony, the friendship of two women. The New York Times. Neither of Tina Curry's two previous films, Peppermint Soda and Cocktail Molotov, gives any hint of the wonderfully sustained artistry that she demonstrates in Antony, her very personal, moving new film that all of a sudden places her among those in the forefront of the commercial French cinema. Antony, which is titled Coup de Foot in France, is something like Lawrence Kasdan's Big Chill in that it has the looks and manner of a conventional film, but in addition has the sort of intelligence that seldom survives the smog of compromises in conventional filmmaking. Antony will be shown at the New York Film Festival at Lincoln Center today at 12:30 p.m. and tomorrow at 9 p.m. Because Antony is mainly about the friendship of two quite different women, each of whom eventually takes charge of her own life. The film may be in danger of being labeled feminist, which I suppose it is at least in part. However, because the term is usually applied to consciousness-raising literature as glumly represented by films like Agnes Varda's One Thing the Other Doesn't, the term doesn't do justice to the specific idiosyncrasies of Miss Curry's work. Antony is not the sort of film that thuses by, supplying unbeat answers. It doesn't have answers of any kind. Like all serious works of narrative fiction, it examines people in particular situations and makes some speculations about what it finds. After that, it's for each of us to interpret according to his own circumstances. The time is 1942. Lena, Isabelle Huppert, a young Belgian Jew, is interned in southern France awaiting deportation to Germany. Unknown to her, she has caught the eye of a camp worker, Michel Guy Macchon, a French legionnaire, also Jewish, who is soon due for discharge. In a note slipped to her one day inside a piece of bread, Michel proposes to Lena. If she marries him, he writes, she'll be allowed to leave the camp. It's not especially romantic, but Michel is young and presentable, and Lena is practical. She accepts. Intercut with these early tragic slapstick adventures of Lena are scenes of the courtship and the marriage of the bourgeois Madalena Miu, an art student whose young husband is killed in a partisan raid just a few months after their marriage. The film then cuts forward to 1952 in Lyon, where Lena now lives with her two small daughters and the attentive, hard-working Michel, who has become the prosperous owner of a garage. One afternoon at the grade 1 school pageant, Lena meets Madalena, now a mother with a small son and married to a good-looking, rather feckless fellow named Costa, Jean-Pierre Bachelay, a would-be actor. Antony is the minutely detailed story of the real friendship that develops between the two women over the next few years as each faces a succession of crises that, at last, alter their lives. Lena, the more conventional of the two, slowly grows from a prematurely daunting duckling into a sleek, smart, self-assured woman. She has never been in love with Michel, but then she seemed to have an exceptionally good marriage. They amuse each other, and both are genuinely delighted in their children. Madalena's life with Costa is a good deal more bleak. He gets into one financial scrape after another, and the childish ways that once amused her are no longer funny. She is bored with Costa, sorry for and a little bored by her shy son, and wants desperately to start life over, preferably in Paris. Autumn is not a movie as short story. It's an oversized film, the kind that is so perfectly realized in vivid incidents that not until the end does one realize how big it is and how effortlessly it has covered so much social and psychological territory. Like Mr. Castan, Mr. Carris is a first-rate writer with a director's vision and command of technique. The first quarter of the film, before Lena and Madalena meet in Lyon, is virtually all exposition, but it's not only packed with detail, it's almost breathlessly suspenseful. It's admirable at the film's clear, unsentimental, long view of things or the beauty and the humor of many of its seemingly throwaway moments. It's marvelous about both the boredom and the joys of family life, about minor crises when a child locks himself in a bathroom, and the major ones when at last a marriage is finally irrevocably over. Later in the film, there is a short but momentous scene aboard a night train to Paris that is stunning in its economy. Miu, whom I don't think I've seen since she played the dyed blondie supermarket cashier in Alan Tanner's Jonah, who will be 25 in the year 2000, is an entirely new screen personality as the gravely pretty dark-haired Madalena. As written, this role leaves much for the audience to fill in or to speculate on, which is what Miss Carris is doing in the film. In the central role of Lena, which Miss Carris says is based on her own mother, Miss Upe is superb, better than she has been in years, strong, funny, self-assured. Audiences who only know her as a professional waif in things like The Trout, Lolo, and Kude Dostrom want to recognize the authority in this fresh, unhackneyed performance. Also extremely fun is Mr. Marchand as Michel, one of the most appealing boys ever to be found in a conventional movie. Mr. Beckley is also as good as Madalena's bewildered husband. Special mention must also be made of the excellent work Mr. Carris has obtained from Patricia Champagne and Sega Blanchard as Leonard's small daughters, and Jaume du Goulet, who plays Madeleine's little boy. Autumn is one of this festival's few unqualified hits. Antony, the friendship of two women. The New York Times. Neither of Tina Carris's two previous films, Peppermint Soda and